So as club season gets closer, we wanted to kind of give an insight into what goes into every club season. We have one of the best club directors in the country. Oh shoot, I'm biased. We have the best club director in the country, Colby. She puts so much thought into everything that happens for club, whether it's scheduling, team placements, coach placement, all the stuff. She just puts so much thought and effort into everything that we do here that we had to sit down with her at the end of last week, and we wanted to let you guys listen in with that. Ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. When did you start playing volleyball?
I started playing real volleyball my sophomore year when we moved here to Wilmington. I played like a year in middle school in Fuquay, but I wouldn't count it as like
That didn't count.
volleyball training. Yeah, no, not at that point in time.
Okay. Where'd you grow up? Where'd you end up going to high school?
I grew up in Fuquay, but I went to Fuquay High School for a year and then moved here before my sophomore year and went to Hoggard. And that's when I really started like getting into volleyball.
Where did you end up going to college?
So I went to, it was Mount Olive College at the time, University of Mount Olive now. Definitely was not, like when I started my recruiting process, was not what I thought, where I thought I would wind up, but was absolutely the right place for me.
And did you play club in high school?
I did, for this club, when it used to be called Cape Fear.
Okay. I know you say you played in Mount Olive. Obviously had a good career there.
Solid, yes.
Says you were inducted into the Hall of Fame at Mount Olive last year.
It was. Yeah, it was a really cool experience. I was really lucky at Mount Olive. We had a really good team, and we broke a lot of records, went to the NCAA tournament a few times. And so one of my outsides was inducted a few years back, and I did her induction speech. And then I was actually able to be inducted with my setter, which was super fun, because we're all still friends, and we had some teammates fly out, and so it was a cool experience to be there. But yeah, I mean, you go through your college career, and you never think, one day I'm going to be in the Hall of Fame. You know,
Right.
that's not really the point, but it's pretty cool when it happens.
No,
So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
There's not many people that get to do that.
no, and it's a pretty humbling experience too, when it's, you know, other people from other sports and you're hearing everything they did, and in your head you're like, wow, that's really impressive. And you don't really think about that applying to you and what you did. And then you kind of hear some of the things like listed out, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, I was pretty good.
I was solid. Had a lot of energy, clearly, so that was good. Yeah, it was a great experience.
All right, so after college, what made you want to be a coach?
So I didn't. I actually, a lot of my teammates.
I don't think anybody does.
Yeah, no. Well, a lot of my teammates did. They were very like, I can't wait to get into coaching. I was actually the one who was like, yeah, no interest, don't want to do it. Met a local kid. I was working at a restaurant there. She played volleyball and got to know her family. Did a couple lessons with her. Just wanted to help her out. And then her dad one day asked me to like meet them at her high school. So I went out there and met the principal, and he asked me pretty much like, do you want to coach? And I didn't. I was in my 5th year of college. I had 2 jobs. Like, I did not want to coach high school. But then I heard the whole thing, like, they didn't really have anybody on staff who knew volleyball. It was pretty much going to be the guy who drove the bus and was like one of the football assistants would help coach the team. In my head, it was kind of like, well, that's not fair. You know, these kids are just as athletic. They put in the same amount of work. They just don't have the same opportunities. So jumped in head first, coached varsity and JV, actually with my setter that I got inducted with. She helped me. And bless those kids, they stuck in there with a 22-year-old hot-headed coach. But we somehow like made the state playoffs that year. It's crazy. And just kind of got addicted and haven't left since. Tried to leave since a couple times, but you can't leave coaching if you really love it.
And that's true. I don't think any kids that are playing are thinking like, oh, I'm ready to coach after this.
Yeah.
Most of them don't have that thought.
Yeah.
All right, so you've coached college, you've coached club, all these things. I'm going to list off. That job was at Southern Wayne.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That job was at Southern Wayne for 3 years. And then Wayne Area Volleyball Club for 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Eastern Elite Volleyball Academy.
Yeah. We
then,
started that club actually, Eastern Elite, when Wayne Area kind of stopped. We started Eastern Elite, and it's still going. They have a good program.
Yeah, they played a couple of organizations.
Yeah.
But yeah, while at Eastern Elite, did 17-1, did 18-1, those for 3 seasons. Then jumped into college at Lewisburg. I'm going to list through all of these and let you go back. Jumped into college at Lewisburg for 2 years, Triangle Volleyball Club, one of the best clubs in the country. Assistant on 17 Blue, resource and assistant on 17 Black, 18 Black, head coach 15 Blue, head coach 15 Black, University of Mount Olive 2 years, University of Mount Olive men's for 2 years, head coach Cape Fear Community College going into your 5th year there, and you've been here at East Coast for 4 years, coaching our 15-1, 16-1, 17-1, 18-1.
Yeah, that makes me sound really old.
And that's the list. Yeah. So, going through all that, what are some of the differences and what are some of the things that can help you from all of that in kind of being a coach and being a club director and all of that?
I think the biggest things are sort of knowing how the other side operates. So, you know, having been on the college end at the NJCA and NCAA level, being able to sort of see what kids fit where, what kids need different things, knowing the ins and outs of recruiting, being able to be at different clubs, being at Triangle, being at a big club, meeting a lot of coaches, to have a lot of connections, and then now just doing it for close to 2 decades. I think they're super complementary of each other. I think I'm a better college coach because I coach club, and it helps me stay connected with the kids and to know more about kind of their day-to-day experiences, what they're going through, what they're dealing with, what the recruiting process looks from their end. And then vice versa, coaching club, I mean, I think coaching college makes me a better club coach because I see the end result of where they're trying to get to. And I kind of know like the level and what that looks like and what the transfer portal looks like. And so I think they're very complementary to each other if you can find the balance. And it allows me to keep up connections at a lot of different levels, which I find to be helpful for my personal growth and development. And then also it helps me help my kids.
Right.
So.
And people don't realize how important that is. When you call a school and they actually know you on an equal level as a college coach or as a college player or a club coach or a club director, whatever it is, when you make those phone calls, it makes such a difference when you have a club director that hasn't played or hasn't coached in college or things like that. Like the respect just is not there when it comes to a peer-to-peer conversation.
Yeah, and that's true for me as a college coach. Like, I'm gonna put so much more stock in a phone call from somebody that I know and respect. I mean, that's almost a done deal for me. If somebody tells me, hey, you really need this kid, I'm gonna believe them quickly because I know they know what they're doing.
Right.
Where if I, get an email maybe from somebody I don't know, or it's just through like a recruiting service where I don't talk to the athlete, that's a pretty quick no for me. And I think a lot of coaches, I was really lucky this summer to do several college showcase camps and be able to sit in these recruiting conversations with coaches at all levels, D1, D2, D3, NJCA, NAIA, and you hear the same things at every level, like they all they all feel the same way about the process. And so I think that that's having a hand in each just super, super beneficial.
Sure. For the club side, multiple jobs in club admin. So many things go into that, but you were an assistant director at Triangle. You've been a program director here and at Triangle. You've done both. And then an indoor director here for the last 2 seasons. How have doing all those things helped you to be a better and an excellent club director?
I mean, honestly, sometimes I think I just got really lucky. Being at Triangle, they're a huge club, and so it was nice to be able to see so many different facets of how it works, whether it's uniforms or scheduling or, travel, like all those behind the scenes things with 30 plus teams. It's kind of one of those things, it's a little trial by fire, right? Like it's overwhelming in your first year, but then once you've done it all, you've done it all. And so you feel more prepared. I think too, being at a lot of different levels of clubs, it's helped me sort of figure out the things that I really want out of this experience and that I think are good for kids. And I've just been really lucky to work with a lot of people who are really good at what they do. And that makes my life easier because I get to see great ways for things to be done and then ways that sometimes just don't work.
Right.
And so I think all those influences of being around other people who are excellent at their jobs helps me. It's not necessarily that, I'm definitely not reinventing the wheel by any means, but somebody else makes a good wheel. Sure.
Right. Yeah, that's so important. Try to do that for everything. Okay, for coaching club, what are some of the most fun things about coaching?
I think the overall thing is the memories. You get to see these kids. I was at 15s for a while before I left Triangle and then started at 15s here. And I really like 15s. They're a super fun age because you still see so much growth and development. And they're kind of at this in-between. They're not kids, they're not adults, they're figuring it out. It's been a big challenge for me, obviously, to kind of move up in age groups each year. So that's been great for me growth-wise. But it's the memories, it's the aha moments, like seeing the kids overcome an obstacle or get that thing you've been working on in practice for a few months.
Right.
I'm not gonna say no to the food in different cities, and like that's always a fun experience, getting to go to different restaurants, try new things. But I think more than anything, it's like you create this relationship with these kids and you get to see their goals and what they want, and then being able to see those things come to fruition. It's the whole reason. Like, why else would you do it if it's
right.
not to help these kids get where they want to? And I just don't know that there's anything really more rewarding that you can do as a job than to watch kids follow through on their dreams.
Right. And when they do it, it's extremely rewarding when you get to go and watch them. Like you go watch them play at their university or watch them play at the school that they're at.
Yeah, and you have this memory of these like little people that they were, and now they're these whole grown-ups doing this thing, and I don't know. I can't imagine another reason for doing it. Like there just isn't one better than that.
Right. Okay, back to the club director side. As we're getting close to club season, what are some of the things that, as a club director, what are some of the things you would encourage a club director to keep as their top goals?
For me, it's always about growth. Whether that growth is in number of kids who just walk in your gym for a camp or a clinic, or number of teams that you have, or maybe it's just growth within your training. I think we coach a game that never stops changing. The rules change, or the way the game's being played changes, the speed of the game changes. I think it's really important to keep an open mindset and always be learning and growing as a coach and a director so that you can really, I guess, fill the market need. You know, you want to make sure at the end of the day that you're giving the parents and the kids what they want to the extent that you can. And for me, the biggest thing as a club director is, do I want them to be better at volleyball? Absolutely. I love winning. Yes, let's get better at volleyball. But I want them to walk out of our gym better than they walked in. And if that's on court or off court, great. You know, maybe a kid struggles with something on court all year, but they had some stuff going on in their life, and this kind of helped them through it. That to me is same as us winning any kind of championship. So.
Right. People don't realize being a club director is so much more than just like assigning coaches and picking a schedule.
Yeah, that's the easy part.
That is the easiest part.
Not too bad.
As club season's about to start, what is some advice that you would give to some of the families coming in, whether it's their first year of club or their 10th year of club? What's some good advice to give to people like that?
I mean, for first year families, I think one of the big things to know is club is a lot. Take a breath. It's like anything else. Give yourself a year to figure out how it works, and you're going to be really happy that you did. But I think the biggest thing that I would tell all families is keep your mindset and your goals about it realistic. At the end of the day, it is a game, and it is supposed to be fun. I've, in the last probably 5 years more so than ever before, I've heard the phrase return on investment a lot when talking about kids. And I have a little bit of an issue with that, especially when we're talking about money. I definitely think that we're always looking at a return on investment from kids, but that investment should be in the kind of people they're going to be, and not whether or not they're walking out with a college scholarship.
Right.
So I think sometimes parents don't realize the pressure that they're putting on their kids. Let them be kids and let them play a game. And if you're choosing to spend your money somewhere, make sure that you trust the people that you're giving that money to. And if you do, let them do their job. I don't know a whole lot of coaches who put in all the time and effort that coaches have to put in because they don't genuinely love the kids and want the best for them. So let your kids have their own experience and be there to be a parent and enjoy it.
Right. I've heard the saying of anytime you're doing like club sports or club athletics, it's kind of you're teaching life lessons through athletics.
100%.
And that it is. You as an athlete, me as an athlete, whether it's running the business, running a club, coaching your team, raising your own children, you think back on so many things that happened in athletics when you were growing up that you pull off of to do that. And those things that you do as a young kid, it's like, that stuff, it's not like, I mean, it helped me in my college athletics career, but it wasn't just to build me to be a college athlete or be a professional athlete. It was to make you into who you are.
100%. I don't think that some of the things that I've dealt with as an adult I would have gotten through without having some obstacles as a high school player, a college player. But my parents definitely always kind of put it back on me. Like, if you want more out of this experience, then do more. Go get it. And I'm really grateful for that. And I think kids are more resilient than we give them credit for.
Oh yeah.
And I think a lot of times, the kids I know I see in our gym, I'm often very impressed with how well they can speak to adults when given the opportunity, how well they can advocate for themselves. And sometimes because they're in the gym, they actually have a much better understanding of where they fall or what they need to work on, where sometimes parents, you see a smaller snapshot. And so it's really important to allow your kids the opportunity to kind of drive their own bus here. Let them do it. And I think most kids will really surprise you. They're going to do a great job at it.
Yep, without a doubt. Okay, so to piggyback off of that, for the kids that are coming in to this club season, that was kind of focused on families. What's some advice we would give the kids?
I think the biggest advice I would give kids is twofold. One, your self-worth as a human being is not wrapped up in your sport.
Right.
What team you make, how much you play, whether you're a starter or non-starter, none of those speak to whether or not you're a good human being. And they shouldn't really have, too much overlap. And two would be, let your journey be yours and don't compare yourself on any level to anybody else. Whether it's, I think social media makes it really easy to like, oh, well, this kid got this or committed here to this. And
social media only shows the positives.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that kids today need to remember that you're seeing, 1 second of somebody's life, and you don't know what it took them to get there, or even if they're really all that happy about whatever it is, if you are happy with your team, you like your coach, you feel like you're getting better, I mean, who really cares about the rest of it? At the end of the day, it's your experience to have.
Right.
Have your experience and be grateful for it. I mean, club is a privilege, and don't take the fun away from yourself by expecting some experience that you see for 2 seconds on an Instagram reel.
Right. That's good advice. All right. When we are hiring new staff members here, what are some of the things that we look for when we're hiring, whether that's coaches or administrators or whatever?
I mean, the biggest thing for me is kind of things we've already touched on. I want to know you're a good person. I want to know you put the kids first.
Yep.
I think whether you're at an admin level or coaching level, there's kind of a bigger purpose to all this. So I want to know that you sort of see that. An extensive volleyball background is never a negative. We want that. Our coaching staff, I would say overall, is on the younger side, but I think that that's such an excellent trait because so many of them have played or are still playing. They're really up to date on things that are being taught. They can really connect with the kids because they were just there recently, or they've just been through that. So I think that's important. But I think at the end of the day, it comes down to people who really want to be here, people who are passionate about the sport, people who are passionate about developing people first and volleyball players second.
Right.
Those are all things we look for, and I think overall, I'm so happy with where our staff is right now. And from a volleyball knowledge perspective, absolutely. But then also just from these are some really great role models for kids today. And I'm just grateful we've been able to find this many people who want to give up, this much of their time, since most of our coaches have another full-time day job. So.
Right. Our staff right now I see them on the court, I see them outside of it sometimes at Captain Bill's, what have you, and they are good role models.
Yeah.
We see some that are not always that way.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see I would rather have a good person that knows a little bit about volleyball than a person that knows a ton and isn't a good person.
Yeah.
But these are both.
Yeah, and we're so lucky. I mean, we've got 3 college coaches currently on staff, but like a couple of our new hires who just have been coaching in college recently, and the majority of our staff played in college or have coached in college at some point, and
Yep.
I think it just lends a different perspective that I think is really valuable to the kids, whether they want to move on and play in college or not. They're still being set up for that possibility if, as they get older, they do decide that's the path they want to take. So,
Right. Yeah, as a 14-year-old, you may not want to do it, but as a 16 or 17-year-old, you may completely change your mind.
yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right, so going on that, so as a club director, your college playing and your college coaching experience. How important is that part for being a club director, those things? Because a lot of it, like you said, it is when the kids get to be juniors and seniors, that's their goal. So that's a big deal for them. Is it important for a club director to have that experience, playing and coaching in college?
I think it definitely lends a perspective that, you know, it's like anything else. If you haven't done it, it's really hard to 100% say. I think there are probably some great coaches and club directors out there who didn't play, but I also think that I would kind of equate it to being an aunt versus being a parent, right? Like, you might be there all the time and you might babysit and you might feel like you know everything it is to,
Right.
to take care of that kid, but it's a different ballgame when it's your kid. And I would kind of say the same thing about that. It's one thing to know the ins and outs and talk about it, but it's another thing when you've actually walked through that experience yourself. I think it just helps you understand the kids better, and it helps you help them from just a whole different viewpoint. So.
For sure. And seeing it. When a kid they're frustrated because they're not getting the look that they want, or they're in a dead period and they're not sure what to do, you can say, I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
I remember those exact things. And you can say from the coaching side, hey, this is what that coach is probably thinking when they say this, when they do that. And it's so easy for you to touch on those experiences and genuinely help the kid instead of going off of kind of what you heard from somebody else. You've lived it on both sides.
Yeah.
Over the years, coaching at various levels, you've been able to see kids have happy and successful careers. Were there any trends you noticed with those kids and their families? What types of things did you see regularly contribute to that player's success?
I think, you know, depending on that kid's end goal, whether they're looking for a more social, recreational type experience, or if they're on that college path, I think the biggest things I've seen that have been helpful are supportive parents. And when I say supportive, I don't mean like you have to be the loudest person cheering at every game, but just sort of being that place. Like, kid gets in the car post practice, and every kid probably has a lot of emotions, whether positive or negative. But just being a sounding board and letting that kid have their emotions, and then you going right back to being their parent. I think I've seen so much of that be successful. One, because it's allowing that kid to take ownership in their process. You're not doing it for them. But it also allows them to have some separation, and they don't have to feel like everything is all volleyball all the time.
Right.
And I think that separation allows them to sort of step away from some of the anxiety that can be created. And then as far as like the college-bound type process, kids who are putting in the extra work. But again, for me, it's got to be kid-driven. I think
Right.
when parents are, I think that's where you experience burnout. When, you know, you're making them go to too many extra workouts, or forcing them to go to a bunch of stuff, or you're the reason that they're doing all those things. I don't know that that's a recipe for success. So I think seeing families who have a really good separation of, like, this is family time, this is not volleyball time, versus now you're in your element, we're going to be here to support you, but we're going to let your coaches coach. I think it gives everybody room to breathe. Coaches, parents, kids, and I think that's where you see kids kind of grow the most.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so this is the last one in regard to recruiting. Given the current recruiting landscape, what advice do you give players, and what is the club doing to help navigate that recruiting process for them?
The biggest advice I can give them is to be patient and to be persistent. You know, the transfer portal became a thing in 2018, and then the recruiting calendar change came around 2019, COVID 2020. And I just feel like the recruiting landscape hasn't resettled itself, and probably isn't going to for another 2 years. There's a surplus of kids playing, there's all these super seniors and grad students, and it's making it harder. I mean, only 6-ish% of kids go on to play college volleyball anyway. now that you have all these other kids available, that drives that number down.
Right.
I think 2021 there were Division I 402 kids that went in and came back out of the transfer portal, more that didn't come back out. But by 2022 it was up above 600 and something, and that's just D1.
Yep.
Like I talked to a friend of mine in D2 a couple months back, and there were like 1,300 kids in the portal right then, between all of the divisions. So I think having kids be patient and persistent. I think one of the other things is we work really hard to be upfront with kids early about the level of schools they need to be targeting, and also sort of making sure that they're targeting schools for the right reasons. So we try to have a lot of conversations with them about what is it that you're looking for, what are some of your must-haves, and getting them to open up to potential schools that fit that maybe aren't schools that they see on ESPN all the time.
Exactly.
I mean, I would be a perfect example of that. Initially, wasn't on my list. It's just one of the best things I've ever done in my life. So, I think that it's really important to help them, and I think that we work really hard to create those personal relationships so that we can get to know the kids and help direct them. From a technical standpoint, again, I feel really lucky I've been able to do these camps and stuff this summer, to hear from other college coaches. Obviously, we direct the kids in what services can be helpful to them, like Huddle, maybe Sports Recruits, or Field Level, those free accounts that they can be using. But I still hear it at every level. They want to hear from the kid. They don't want to go through a service where they've got to click on multiple things. So we go through with the kids how to create an email, how to create your list, how often they should be reaching out to these schools, how to create their video. Huddle Assist has been awesome because it makes creating a recruiting video now, you're talking about 20 minutes, where, man, when I was doing it, or even just 5 years ago, having all those things tagged and being able to just pull them, and you're not having to cut film, and it's a whole different experience. But we want to help them. I'd rather see my kids be patient and find the right fit for them than commit somewhere and be in the portal in a year. So I've talked to coaches at several levels who just finished up their 23 classes in June because they had kids go in the portal in May that they weren't expecting. So I think we're going to see that for another year or two, and I think as a club, our job is to just stick it out with our kids and help direct them through this process as best as possible. I think recruiting is like the worst possible form of speed dating that you can do anyway, from both ends,
Yep.
And so just helping guide them through that process in all the different areas, I think has helped our kids remain patient, persistent. We're starting to see it, really pay off. Obviously, we had our first commit for the upcoming 18th class, and I think we'll see quite a few more moving forward. But they're doing a great job of sourcing out schools that are good fits for them, because we've been having those conversations for a couple of years now. So.
Right, that is extremely important. We're lucky, and a lot of kids that go, they don't go to the ones that they thought they were going to go to when they were freshmen.
Yeah, for sure. And and it's different. Even I talk to college coaches all the time, and you hear them say, used to, they had it planned out 4 or 5 years in advance. They knew everybody was on the board, and their boards are just as crazy as things are for our kids. So give it a couple years and see what it looks like. But I think giving kids the information, and again, allowing the kid to take charge of their own process.
Right.
I can't say enough about that, whether it's choosing a club or choosing a college, because then they're going to be happy. They know what they want better than any of the rest of us.
Well, they're lucky to have you do it.
Depends on the day. Ask them depending on what kind of practice we're having.
But no, they're lucky, that's for sure. The whole club you've done a heck of a job and are doing a heck of a job.
Thanks. So far, so good. It's been a lot more fun than I expected. Being a club director is not easy, but it is really rewarding. And we've seen so much growth. Like our rec league, for example, you know, had so many kids in it, and seeing all these kids who've never played volleyball start, and a few weeks later, they're so pumped about it. That to me is the coolest thing in the world. So that's what we want. We want to see more kids coming in, and I just want them to have a really good experience. And hopefully we give them that, and they keep wanting to play this sport that we all seem to be addicted to.